This video is sponsored by Ibotta.
Meet Dre, 24 years old, fed up with life and the way things are going. No, well, you know, things aren't really that bad. It's actually 1991, 3 years after Straight Outta Compton drop, making NWA and Dr Dre complete superstars. Anyway, meet Dre, 24 years old, wildly successful, but still fed up with life and the way things are going, because some lady let his op diss him and his crew on her TV show. And so after running into her in a nightclub, he decides to truly put the beats into Beats by Dre. But on the way in, he has a sudden change of heart, and his conscience comes into play.
Alright, stop! Before you get out the car and walk in the party and start beating on Dee Barnes, you better think of the consequence. Who are you? I'm your goddamn conscience. That's nonsense. Go into the rave, spray, beat that chick in the face like Prime Day. Just had a sale on Beats by Dre. Then jump on TV the next day with NWA. Don't try to save face, just say she had it coming, okay? Yeah, but if it all goes through like it's supposed to, the whole industry knows you and then they will expose you. I mean, what's the chance you hit a girl and get off squeaky clean and make a Billy selling headphones with Jimmy Iovine? F that, do that ish, hit that bitch. Even the mother of your kids know that you make hits. Why do you care if she tells? Just dispute that snitch. And do you really think the fans care that you beat chicks? Man, don't do it, it's not worth it to risk it. You're right. Not over this vid. Stop. She got it twisted. I will. Don't even watch Trap Lord Ross, he's bad for you. You know what, Dre? I don't like your attitude.
In Los Angeles, Dee Barnes, host of the Fox TV rap show Pump It Up, is filing a civil suit against Dr. Dre of the hardcore rap group NWA. Barnes seeks damages over $10 million and claims that last January at an LA club, Dre assaulted her, grabbing her hair, slamming her face and body into a wall, and kicking her in the ribs.
I know nowadays everybody want to talk like they forgot about Dre's history of domestic violence, but the thing is, this particular story seems to have been misinterpreted and mangled to no end as it's been passed down from generation to generation of hip-hop fans. Sure, the iconic lyric from Eminem and Dr. Dre's song Guilty Conscience playfully describes what Dr. Dre did as slapping Dee Barnes. But in reality, there is a lot more to the story and the man himself. Dr. Dre, of course, a man who ironically would turn out to be so good at putting the beats on people that he ended up becoming a billionaire. But this is a story I feel it is important to remember. And funnily enough, the circumstances surrounding it run deeper than a lot of people may have initially thought. Now, Dee Barnes, also known as Sister D, was apparently cool with Dr. Dre long before this incident even went down. She even appeared alongside him and the Dr. Dre produced posse cut We're All in the Same Gang as part of her own female duo Body and Soul. And this track was a humongous posse cut under the banner of the West Coast All-Stars and featured a cavalcade of vintage rap legends including King T, Tone Loc, Ice-T, Dr. Dre, MC Ren, Eazy-E, MC Hammer, and even more. My god, I can't tell if this is the West Coast All-Stars or just a list of rappers who owe the IRS more than 7 figures. Anyway, this song was a monster. It had 13 verses, and the track itself was supposed to be some sort of positive call to action telling young inner-city teens to avoid joining gangs. Ironically, now having the same sort of effect that 6ix9ine's early music does. Now, this track actually landed at number 35 on Billboard, and even wound up getting a Grammy nomination for Best Rap Performance by a group at the 33rd Awards. But beyond this giant posse cut, Body and Soul had also had success with the songs Dance to the Drummer's Beat, High Powered, and We Can Do This. And funnily enough, that duo that Dee Barnes was part of, Body and Soul, had actually formed in the studio belonging to Alonzo Williams, early mentor of Dr. Dre and the brains behind the world-class Wrecking Crew group where Dre got his career start. And of course, being the multi-talented female queen that she was, beyond the music, Dee Barnes was also an expert broadcaster like some sort of early Joe Budden with a vagina. She'd hosted radio shows on K-Day, the LA station instrumental in the early rise of Eazy-E and the NWA crew, but most importantly, regularly hosting segments for the Fox TV rap show Pump It Up, where she would speak to / be complained at by rappers.
An angry mother blank with a mic. What do you mean by that?
Well, see, by me having a mic, I get to kind of explain and really talk about the things that cause problems. See, I'm more of a complaining type of rapper.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
Meet Camille, editor for Trap Lord Ross. She's looking for cash back on her purchases that will allow her to add money straight to her account and withdraw her savings to Venmo, PayPal, or gift cards. When suddenly Trap Lord Ross comes into play. Alright, stop there. If you're looking for a cashback rewards app, just try Ibotta. Try it. All you gotta do is download the app, find some deals, and be a pro shopper. Sounds easy. Just scan your receipt and the money adds in straight to your account. You get a $20 bonus just by using my link. Go down and try it out. Try it out. It's 100% free. Works at all your favorite stores. Mate, I like browsing the goods at Target, and iBotter's got deals galore. So many deals. So why not get some cash back on things you were already buying? Click that link in description. iBotter. Sign up and try it. Try it. Come on guys, you can scan any receipt and get cash back, up to $20 sign up bonus, so there's no excuse. Thanks iBotter. Click the link in description box to download the app and get your sign up bonus.
I love Chris Rich.
Boom. See you later.
Now, a little extra context is needed here. By the time this whole drama kicked off, Sister D had actually already interviewed Dr. Dre, Ice Cube, and NWA numerous times for Pump It Up.
Ice Cube of NWA will be hanging out with him and all his homies at his house.
We'll be back after these commercials or breaks or cuts or whatever.
Whatever. Don't go anywhere.
However, as time went on, the NWA crew and its members got into various dramas. Ice Cube left NWA in 1989 over a royalty dispute due to not being compensated for a large amount of songwriting that he did for the NWA crew on Straight Outta Compton, and funnily enough, even before he'd fallen out with the crew, we'd already seen Ice Cube with Dee Barnes on Pump It Up, clearly already not getting the dues that he deserved.
I'm waiting to get my house, that's why everything I own is stuffed up in this room. See, when you do a record and it sells 500,000 copies, they give you a gold record, you know, like a trophy, like. And this is for Easy Easy Does It. That's NWA. Easy.
And what's this?
This is what they give you when you use the Ampax tape. You know, they just happy because you use their tape.
Is it real gold?
Huh?
Is it real gold?
I doubt it. That's why they give you money, I guess, because they know they ain't real gold.
I can use the gold or the money. You hear that?
Yeah.
Anyway. I can use the gold or the money. You hear that?
And so following his bitter departure, NWA had decided to diss their former Nigel with Attitude Ice Cube on wax, dissing him on their track 100 Miles and Runnin', so it was plainly obvious that NWA and Ice Cube were beefing publicly. And so, according to Dee Barnes herself, when the time came to film an interview with the now shrunken crew from Compton, NWA, that interview seemed like it had bad energy from the get-go.
You guys still communicate with him? All the time we communicated when they have little run-ins, you know.
Dee said that during this interview with NWA, every single answer to every single question just seemed to be a diss towards Ice Cube, something which apparently they even had to clean up in the edit to even make the interview usable. But when that interview aired on television, NWA and the boys were absolutely livid, because immediately after their interview, played another interview that was intended to be with Yo-Yo from the set of Boys in the Hood, an interview where Ice Cube unexpectedly appeared and dissed NWA using their own lyrics against them. And then the icing on the cake, more specifically, he decided to mock the DOC, close ally of Dr. Dre and NWA, who had just had a near-fatal car accident and had damaged his voice box permanently.
Ice Cube won't pump it up. I got all suckers 100 miles and one. Like to give a shout out to the DLC. Y'all can't play.
Now, for the record, even at the time, Dee Barnes said that she didn't think they should air this piece. But apparently at the time, she was just the presenter and she didn't have the sole control over the final edit where they ended up sensationalizing the story and playing these two clips together. However, immediately after Ice Cube dissed NWA on camera, Sister D turned to the lens and pointed out that she's always in the middle of controversy.
Sister D, always in the middle of controversy right here on Pump It Up.
Which was probably at the time just a reflexive response to an awkward situation, but unfortunately in the edit the way this came across was perceived as a sign that she was stoking the flames, encouraging this beef between Ice Cube and NWA and positioning herself right in the middle of it. And well, like it or not, one thing Sister D did not sign up to be in the middle of was a Royal Rumble with a man twice her size. After this interview, a bit of time went past and Dr. Dre and Dee Barnes would eventually cross paths. Which, to be honest, isn't surprising. After all, they were known to roll in the same circles, they were in the same industry and had worked together on numerous occasions. And so when Dr. Dre spotted Dee Barnes in a Def Jam record party for the rap crew's No Face and Bitches with Problems at an LA nightclub, and it was there that a drunken Dr. Dre, still livid at how that interview had been presented, flew off the handle in a blind rage at Dee Barnes. Former NWA promoter and current referee Doug Young was actually there for this incident and even caught some friendly fire. So he probably is the most well-positioned person to explain this without too much bias.
He looked over at D, he said, "That's some fucked up shit you done, bitch," and stole on a boom! And you know how your drunk can just come down? The drunk just came down, and I'm looking and I'm saying, wait a minute, this nigga's whooping this bitch ass. So I jumps in the fight, you know, to help D, and his bodyguard hits me in the side of my mouth here with his gun.
Yes, that's right, people tried to stop it, but reports have said that Dr. Dre's armed bodyguard prevented people from getting involved. But for the record, this wasn't Suge Knight, as some people have suggested, to try and sensationalize the story after the fact. But anyway, apparently in that initial skirmish, Dr. Dre grabbed her head and slammed it against a brick wall. Dee Barnes then hit the ground and tried to crawl to a nearby stairway to get away from Dre, which for one moment Dre even tried to throw her down. At this point, he began kicking her in the ribs and stamping on her hands. She continued to cling onto him to avoid being thrown down the stairs to her death, and even managed for a moment to escape him, running into the ladies' room where Dre even followed her, continuing to punch her in the back of the head before somebody finally separated them and Doug could help Dee recover from this incident.
So then Dre had dragged her around the corner into like this bathroom stall and started kicking and stumping and punching her. Finally, Dre got off of her and shit, so I helped her up and she staggered her to the bathroom. Her hair was all messed up. She was bleeding. She was fucked up. He fucked her up. So
yeah, this whole thing is not a good look by any stretch of the imagination. But just in case you couldn't think Dr. Dre was any more of a bad guy, he walked into the label office the next day and tried to excuse his behavior by blaming society's favorite flimsy all-purpose excuse for terrible behavior since 10,000 BC, alcohol.
And that bitch-ass Dre came in. I was mad at him. I said, man, do you remember what you did last night? Not really. What do you mean, not really? Motherfucker, you whooped my ass and you beat the shit out of D. He said, I remember that part. I'm sorry about that, Doug. I said, man, what the fuck you do that for, nigga? You went out. Oh, man, you remember when she did that shit on Pump It Up?
Now, the grand irony is, of course, as High Snobiety pointed out, with no actual video evidence pinning Dr. Dre to this assault, he probably could have gotten away with this thing completely. That is, if he and his buddies decided to keep their mouths zipped. But that's not what they did. But they instead decided to get to self-snitching on camera, even though this was 2 decades before Vlad TV had even been invented. Yes, instead, immediately following the incident, Dr. Dre and NWA came out to claim this intergender drilling and didn't seem at all remorseful.
That's what she get. I hope she get it again. She got beat down. The person who's the host of that show did something that she knows she did and got beat down, and I hope it happened again.
Wow. But unfortunately for them, at some point following these very stupid statements, Dre began trying to downplay the incident in various interviews, including one with Rolling Stone where he went on as if he'd just thrown her through a door. Yeah, you still can't throw girls through doors, Dre. You're gonna lose your medical license at this rate. And Dre went even further with the stupidity, sidestepping the seriousness of these allegations by saying, well, at least I didn't break her arm or touch her ass. Yeah, Dre, at least this assault on a woman wasn't sexual, eh? Setting the bar so low that Satan himself could limbo under it. Unfortunately for the doctor, despite Dee Barnes' concussion, she wasn't about to forget about Dre. And not long after the incident in February 1991, Dee Barnes filed a civil lawsuit for $22.7 million. Christ, that's nearly 2 pairs of Beats headphones in today's money. Dee Barnes also pressed criminal charges for assault and battery, coming out to suggest that Dre had also been violent with other women and that she was the only person who had the guts to speak up. Oh, and one more thing, just to quash any idiots in the comments who might be saying, oh, this was 1991, it was a different time. Well, even at the time, some other people in the hip-hop community had better sense and denounced Dr. Dre for his bad behavior, particularly Tim Dog, who came out with the scathing track F Compton, which directly referenced this incident. But hey, if we've learned anything from Dr. Dre's illustrious career, it's that he has an uncanny ability to surgically sidestep L's. And looking back, it seemed like he managed to wriggle his way out of this one without very much drama at all. On the criminal side of things, Dr. Dre pled no contest to assault, and for that, he got a fine of $2,500, 2 years probation, and 240 hours of community service. He was also told to produce an anti-violence PSA, which unfortunately doesn't seem to have surfaced on the internet, so I decided to make my own using this 1992 Christmas ad for Death Row Records. Damn, what a Merry Christmas. And that girl's fine too. Wait a minute, what's that? Oh Christ, he's big old mad. Now, ever the finesser, Dr. Dre would later pull another humongous sidestep and manage to completely wriggle his way out of the civil lawsuit as well. Because after linking up with Snoop Dogg in 1992 and becoming a legendary duo, Dre actually went on to work with Snoop Dogg's cousin Ricky Harris. And well, you're never gonna guess who he was married to at the time. Well, it was only our old pal Dee Barnes. And well, I'm not sure how or what kind of voodoo finessing went on behind the scenes, but eventually, without fanfare, Dr. Dre and Dee Barnes settled their civil suit privately in 1993, with some speculation that she had originally offered to drop the charges in exchange for career support. Career support? She'd have been lucky to get some free beats out of it. Wait a minute, that's the last thing she's gonna want. Now, Dee herself has actually come out since then and downplayed this settlement, suggesting that it certainly wasn't a 7-figure sum. But as we're gonna find out later, regardless of what the settlement was, it really wasn't a happy ending for her. But at the very least, in 2015 and 17, she got an opportunity to air Dr. Dre's woman-beaten ass out in front of the whole world to see. By 2015, it did seem indeed like everybody had forgot about Dre. And for nearly a decade, that Dee Barnes incident too would remain largely forgotten. Possibly in part due to the lack of internet or muckraking culture soldiers like me. But the story eventually resurfaced when Dr. Dre's protege and world-class mum agitator Eminem hopped on the track Guilty Conscience with his new mentor Dr. Dre, surprising him in the studio with the famous line, "You think I'd take advice from someone who slapped Dee Barnes?" And legend has it that when Dr. Dre first heard this lyric, he reacted by falling out of his chair laughing. I mean, I can't imagine how that looked, but probably something like this. Oh my god, I really beat her ass, didn't I? Definitely not a good look. However, fortunately for the history books, that story would eventually resurface. Because in 2015, Dr. Dre successfully transitioned from woman beater to odds beater, pretty much becoming a billionaire after only a few years of selling low-quality headphones for $120 a pop. With the help of Apple, Dr. Dre was finally able to scale up his true dream, going from just giving beats to one woman in a nightclub to putting beats on the heads of women all over the world, leaving their heads black and blue. But with all of that added attention and all of those big W's racking up for Dr. Dre, it would only be natural that this embarrassing story would eventually resurface. And it was actually a year after that Apple deal that it would begin to receive more scrutiny. As the NWA biopic Straight Outta Compton released, many people were wondering whether or not this incident would make it into the film. Spoiler alert, it didn't. And after a while, the film itself began to catch flack for glossing over the misogyny and domestic violence that NWA were associated with during their come-up. Combine that with the fact that Dee Barnes came out around this period, with Gawker publishing an article pointing out exactly what was missing from the film. Though I want to say, to be fair, for the record, an early version of the script of the movie did reference the incident. Apparently director F. Gary Gray decided to take it out. But what was his excuse? Well, when he was finally confronted at a Q&A as to why this wasn't in the film, he completely sidestepped the question, just saying that it was too long.
What was the decision? Why the omission? And have there been any other thought about it?
Well, you know, there really wasn't no omission. We talked about it at the beginning, and the original script was 150 pages long. The original editor's cut was 3 hours and 30 minutes long. So we couldn't get everything into the movie. What we had to do was make sure we served the narrative, and the narrative was about NWA.
Ironically, Dee Barnes was on hand to point out that maybe there was a deeper reason that F. Gary Gray didn't want to talk about the incident or why it wasn't included in the film, sensationally revealing that Gray himself was actually a cameraman in that original interview with NWA and Ice Cube that ended up leading to Dee Barnes' assault. And she even went on to accuse him of denying her a role in a 1996 movie because Dr. Dre was in it. In response to this backlash, Dr. Dre finally showed some remorse for his actions. Only 15 years too late, and in order to try and protect his income, of course. Speaking on it in Rolling Stone, the same publication that ironically 14 years prior published an article playfully titled "Beating Up the Charts," where Dre originally downplayed the assault, but in the 2015 Rolling Stone article, Dre once again sidestepped any actual apology, as well as sneakily discrediting some of the other allegations of domestic violence against him. A pretty slimy move which I would be completely all over his ass for, had he not at least gone on from that interview to actually apologize for hurting women in his younger years, blaming his drinking in a statement that was published in the New York Times. This phrase, hurting women, that he decided to use is a reference not just to the Dee Barnes incident, but to numerous historical allegations of violence against women, including the mother of one of his children, Michelle Lee, the mother of 3 other of his children, Lisa Johnson, and former label mate Taeri B. And although it was a big happy ending for Dr. Dre going from beating women to Beats headphones, as well as getting a very slick redemption narrative in episode 2 of his Netflix documentary The Defiant Ones, where he even apologized on camera, because yeah, now he's the hero somehow. But I've got to say, to be fair, in that show, he did passionately apologize and also describe seeing his own mother beaten as a child. A helpful bit of context which, although it doesn't excuse his behavior, but at least gives us a little bit of extra insight to understand maybe why he would have thought that this was acceptable when he was a younger man. But unfortunately, after all was said and done, the same type of redemption wasn't afforded to Dee Barnes herself. As Dee Barnes claims herself, since the beating by Dre, she'd been blacklisted from the entertainment industry. And as of 2019, Dee Barnes was facing financial troubles and had even been made homeless. In fact, the last we'd heard from her publicly, she had a GoFundMe and was trying to raise money. And you know what? I don't know Dee Barnes. And who knows, maybe there's aspects of her journey up until this point that are unclear. But she was a certified culture soldier back in the day, documenting prehistoric rap game clout and paving the way for snarky twats like me to have a career talking about the genre of music that I truly love, and I personally am grateful to her. So I've just donated $69 to her GoFundMe page, and I'm going to leave a link in description. So if you feel like showing some love to a hip-hop behind-the-scenes legend who frankly was not treated kind by the history books, you should go and show love too. Shout out to Dee Barnes for being a trailblazer for the culture and an inspiration for creative women everywhere. As for Dr. Dre, great music, average headphones, not so nice guy. But hey, let's make sure that none of us forget about this one, eh Dre? Peace out.
Shout out iBotta for sponsoring this video. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure that you go and show your boy some love at TrapLordRoss on Instagram, on Twitch. I'll probably be streaming after this thing premieres, and on Twitter and all of that good stuff. Also, while you're here, I want to show some love to my Patreon gang. Everybody who supports on Patreon makes an enormous difference to the ongoing running of the channel, and your ongoing support makes it possible for me to continue making these videos to a high standard without worrying about YouTube demonetizing me or doing any kind of messed up stuff behind the scenes, which does happen from time to time, you know what I'm saying? So shout out to everybody that is choosing to support at patreon.com/TrapLordRoss. That is of course Max Hathaway 2000, Dujuan Jones, Ban Johnson, Mark Vader, Jay, Brandon Weddle, Chris, Sebastian Andres Laredo, Sean Anderson, Vampires for Hire, Roberto Rosas, Matthias Martin, Deshaun Campbell, Tuxedo Mask with a $sign for an S because you know he's wavy like that, Eric Prince Nice, Armour, Eric Fredrickson, Antonio Groza, Bash the Prince, Chris J, Claire Audion, DJ Fred 100, Griffin Fuller, Henry Bryant, Jaden Cho, Jason Wyman, Javier Gonzalez, Jessica Simmons, Kizzlebot, Nara Shukla, Otaku VS, Penis Bag McPenisface, Pyromancer, Vivi, Wilson Psychedelic, and everybody else's names who you see on screen right now. Thank you so much. Your support means the world to me. Also, shout out to iBotta for sponsoring this video. Go check them out in the description. That is it for today. Until next time, peace out, gang. I'll see you where I'll just bye.